we were having a party up at our loft, up at the Commune on Vestry Street. And Sunshine had just come into town. So we were all tripping on Sunshine. We were sitting on the floor with our backs against the couch. And we were pretty high, and all of a sudden Tom sits up. I thought Tom was having a bad trip. I said to him, what's the matter, Tom, you okay? He said, wow, I just had an idea. I said, what's that? He said, what do people want more than drugs? I said, I don't know, money? But I don't even think money, because people are paying money for drugs. And he said, no, more than money, more than drugs. What do people want? I said, I don't know, I don't have a clue. All right? He said, they want information about drugs. I said, okay. He said, no, where to get them, how to know if they're, the purity of the drugs you're getting, how to produce better drugs. And I said to him, okay. And he said, I'm going to start a magazine, and I'm going to make a lot of money selling people information about drugs. I said, Tom, you just made $2 million selling hash. What makes you think a magazine you're going to make more money?
I think the underground press led to it. Yeah. I think the UPS led him right there. He started the magazine when I was in California.
He would keep a tank of nitrous oxide and be sucking on balloons. We'd be sharing balloons, and as he was working on the first issue, and he showed me, look what we're doing this, look, what do you think of this idea and this idea. And then the first issue came out, and they had a party down at the Fifth Avenue Hotel, a press party with people from the New York Times, Time Magazine, AP, everybody, Al Goldstein from Screw. And Tom asked me to help talk to the press because he felt that I presented the right image for that sort of thing. And I said, but I really had nothing much to do with it. He said, hey, you know as much about this as anybody. And that was my first job for High Times. And then he asked me to help him do the business end of things. And at first, of course, we were all afraid to put our name on the masthead because we didn't know if it was legal to shoot pictures of dope. Nobody had really ever done it before.
Yeah, people are going to look at pictures of weed. Duh. Of course, duh wasn't a word that would have been invented yet because it was invented by Gen Xers. He comes by one day and says, give me some pictures. And I lay out a whole bunch of pictures, and he takes out like a dozen, and he publishes them. And then he comes back again and goes, you know, everybody just says the pictures were the greatest thing in the magazine, so. And then unfortunately, he went out and hired himself Bob Guccione's centerfold picture editor.
Tom was at heart just sort of a very bright, ambitious kid who loved engines, guns, and he loved tweaking authority.
Take out the jams, motherfucker!
The first issue went out totally through pot dealers. And then he came by and he said he was all bummed out because no distributors would distribute. He printed the first issue of High Times, and no distributors would distribute it. And he was bummed out. He said, you know, I put all this money into this magazine, no distributors would distribute it. He said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I got all these copies of High Times. I told him, Tom, you got the best distribution network in the world. He said, what are you talking about? I said, you just moved $2 million worth of hash. You can't get rid of a few magazines? I said, all you got to do is go to all the dealers you know and give them a copy of High Times, and every time they sell a pound, put a copy of High Times in it. So he gave us a huge stack of High Times. Distributors, after the books got out, distributors came to him and said, hey, we want to distribute your magazine. So That's pretty much how High Times got started.
The second issue was the first color issue that was done. And I'll never forget, as it came off press, Tom walking into my office with that first color issue and saying, "This is a license to print money." He was excited.
Yeah. How come out of all those people that got blissed out of doing anything political because of that marvelous week at the Fontainebleau, how come only Forcade was the one that actually came up with this brilliant idea to start an institution of arts and literature, yeah, that would carry the message?
So when he came around and says, "You want to buy stock in fucking this magazine, High Times, that I'm starting?" I said, "Forget it. I want to lose my fucking money." And it just you know, it caught on, and it was the right time, and you know, people were really into it, and it made a lot of news back then, and you know, it was like unheard of. And he had all these great parties where we'd have laughing gas and stuff, you know. So it was cool. Forcade was like, he was pretty fucking amazing guy.
Tom was a funny guy. I really liked Tom, you know. How to describe it's very hard to describe Tom. He was, you know, he was a doer. He believed in what he was doing. That's the best thing I can say about Tom. Tom, you know, one time I called him Tom Forcade, right, which most people call him now, and he said to me, "Do you know what a facade is? A facade is a phony front, and there ain't nothing phony about me." And he said, "Well, what did he call himself? Tom Forcade." He said, "I'm Tom Forcade." With all of us back at that time, it wasn't about the money. It was about changing the world.
Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. It was a big success. He wanted me to write 2 columns, Mucho Macho and Femme Fatale, about women's issues and men's issues, or cultural issues. And so I did that, and then I did some other goofy things with A.J. Weberman and some other yippies. I think it was in A.J.'s loft that they filmed for cable television. Was nascent then, and it was a lot of fun doing shows.
This guy had parties at the High Times parties. The High Times parties, they were bigger than Studio 54 because everybody had a great time. And when Tom Forcade had a party with for whatever the reason may be, he spared no expense. A lot of bands, a lot of sacraments, a lot of food, a lot of good people, and networking like ABC, NBC, and CBS would envy to have.
But before the meeting, we had to go to a party. And this was the first time I'd gone to a party where almost everybody there was smoking marijuana. And they had what they call bongs, where little fires in a container, and then the smoke was coming out, and you'd inhale the smoke. And this was exceedingly interesting to me. It was like going from Earth to Mars. It was a completely different environment than I was used to. And then came the meeting. And I thought, I'm pretty good as a parliamentarian, as a facilitator for meetings, but this was one of the most difficult meetings that I've ever conducted. I was at the loft, and Tom and all the so-called directors and officers were there, and they were sitting on a long couch, and some in chairs all around. Some were laying on the floor, and a person came in late with some powder in little containers, and everybody got excited about the powder, and they put it on the desk and with little toothpicks, and they started to play with the powder. And next thing I know, people were giggling and laying down. Eyes were glazed, and here I was trying to conduct a board of directors meeting. It took twice as long, and I think by the time we finished, Tom fell asleep. And I thought to myself, this is a strange world I'm getting into.